Hey everybody, welcome to the Keys to AWS Optimization. You might be thinking, hang on a second, why Steph by herself? Don't go anywhere. I have two amazing guests coming on in just a second. But for some background information, I just lost power to everything. So if I'm a little bit messy, that is why. But we have an exciting show today. We have two guests, one of which you asked for is my mum to come on and do a little FinOps quiz, as well as Dvir from Wix coming on in a second. But before we do, I wanted to just share with everyone, love sharing a little bit of where I've been and why I wasn't on last week. I was actually at the Taylor Swift concert last week. Any Swifties in the audience will hopefully be a bit jealous or excited for me. It was a really good show. Can't believe it. I also got this very nifty like wristband thing. I just wanted to showcase that like this is connected to like infrared in the stadium, and it's actually all run on Amazon. There is an article about it in which they all light up across the audience, and I just think it's absolutely amazing how AWS is helping Taylor Swift do her amazing shows. And if you missed before, we have an episode with Sky about how they had to plan for things like the NFL game when it came to Taylor Swift appearing on them. So if you haven't seen that, make sure you check out the YouTube channel Keys to AWS Optimization, and don't forget to like and subscribe. As always, feel free to put comments, questions in the chat. Already had a very cool, it was very cool in there. But please comment, say hi, say where you're from. But without further ado, a couple of weeks ago when we did Rivian, we said if the YouTube video got more than 50 likes, it actually got over 100 likes. So thank you so much. Then I would bring my mum on to do a short message about her experience with FinOps. And without further ado, I will present to you Miss Sue Gooch.
Hi, Steph. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Mum.
This is so weird.
I know. Welcome, Mum. Thank you so much for doing this. Everybody, this is my amazing, amazing mother who is here today to say hi. Please show some love in the chats. Savannah's already raving. Sue.
Love you, Savannah, already.
That's great. Hi, Cost Mum. Hi, Sue. Hooray for mums everywhere. The chat is going wild.
Definitely.
FinOps for mums. I love this.
Maybe I should start a new group, FinOps Mums.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about it in Rivian's episode of FinOps Mums. I love that. Let's just start the hashtag FinOps for Mums. Amazing. Okay, all right. Well, we promised the audience that you would do a FinOps quiz, my mum. So
please be kind.
Brace yourselves, everybody. We've got some questions ready. Okay. Oh, we've already got, I love this. Hang on. Andrew's just like, hashtag FinOps Mums. But FinOps Mums are coming in. Okay, Mum, are you ready? Question one.
Okay.
What does RI stand for?
Reserved instances.
Okay, that's an easy one. Okay.
This is really sad.
Right. No, it's not. We'll go into how she knows this in a second. Okay, Mum. What do customers use to see their cost?
Easy peasy. That's the curve, the cost and usage report. Got it.
She did both, everybody. She not only did cash, she did cost and usage report. I love it. I love that. Okay, all right. Question 3. People who watch this show want to learn how to optimize, Mum. So what is one thing they can do to optimize?
My favorite thing, getting rid of unwanted resources. And I saw in one of the previous shows, somebody said that don't bring any business value, which I love. Ex-business teacher can't help but see the value in that. That is fabulous. Loved it.
Oh my God. That was Eric, I think, who said that. And he said you're hired.
I got a job.
Eric was the one who said that, I'm sure. So you know what?
It was costing around that asked for me to be on the show. I'm going to hunt you down. I will hunt you down.
Costing around, you got your name. She wrote it down to make sure she knew who did it. The pride on Steph. I love it. I am so proud of my mum. But I'm going to do one more question.
Yeah, go for it.
All right, she got 3 for 3. Mum, what do I do as a job?
You're a solutions architect advocate?
Yeah.
And there's a bit more, but I can't remember.
Yeah, that's it. And what do I do?
You do cost optimization to find out how people can save money in the cloud in their cloud storage.
There we go.
There we
Amazing.
go.
So much. Just why don't you tell everybody quickly before we bring on our amazing customer, how do you know all this stuff?
Well, you're dyslexic. Both of my children are dyslexic. And so I've read coursework and essays over the years. And then finally, when it got to Steph's master's dissertation, I started reading stuff that I didn't understand. And I had to keep checking with her the accuracy of what she put down. So I was learning about buckets and EC2s and elastic IPs and all sorts of stuff that didn't really make any sense. So there was a lot of checking going on. So I've been watching the show as well. So sometimes it goes over my head completely, and then occasionally I'll go, oh, I get that. So it's good. It's good. I enjoy it. So it's nice to know.
Aw. I am so proud of you, Mum. Thank you, and appreciate you for reading all of my terrible coursework over the year. Savannah said you're the most supportive mum ever. That is true.
I'm taking that.
Yeah, all my coursework taking me to all my competitions. Everyone knows here that I'm an athlete, and Mum used to. Oh, fun fact: Mum used to sit in a field while I did archery for about 7 hours with a kid.
Yeah.
Anyway, that is it. I will not take any more of your time, Mum. Thank you so much, and thank you in the chat, everybody. You got Mum of the Year, all these amazing comments. Thank you so much for doing this. I'm seeing you tomorrow, so that's fun.
See you tomorrow, Steph. Bye.
Bye, okay, all right. I'm going to say bye, and we're going to bring in our amazing guest from Wix. Thanks, Mum. Bye. Okay. Hey, Dvir.
Hi, that was amazing.
I know, right? How does she was spitting out what, like, I didn't do much prep with her, like everybody. There wasn't a lot, because I really wanted to show you that she does know loads. And it's also quite inspirational, because my mum said she read my dissertation and like absorbed it. I also obviously chat about work a lot, so she's absorbed it, but just showing that people all over can learn. So if you think that your teams in your office don't understand FinOps, there's still hope for them to enjoy. But Dvir, how's your day going, apart from listening to my mum chat?
First of all, now it's even better than what it was before. So, but my day is amazing. I'm here at the office. I'm here with my dog.
We've already had a comment saying Dvir can do dogs of FinOps. Hashtag mums of FinOps, hashtag dogs of FinOps. I love this.
Yes, exactly. So my dog is famous, it turns out.
Yes. Definitely. All right, so let's get into what we're going to talk about today on the more serious side of the show, but still as fun. Is we're going to be looking at the amazing story from Wix and about how they have saved a ton of money and the efficiency journey they have gone on to. Dvir, why don't you do your 1-minute origin story so we can learn a little bit about your background.
Amazing. So I joined Wix in 2017, and in 2017, Wix ran on a physical data center. For those of you who didn't know, we're not cloud native. We weren't born in the cloud. We actually ran on premises. And during this transition, Wix actually identified that one of the challenges in the cloud is cost. And they looked for a role. In 2017, it wasn't called FinOps officially. And to someone that will, escort this journey and figure out what it's all about in the cloud and how we can make sure that the transition is financially effective. And this is how I joined Wix. Zero understanding of this role and what I'm supposed to do, but we've kind of built it since then.
Amazing. I love that growth. And you saying 2017, I was like, last year? No, that was 7 years ago. That's wild to think back.
Yeah. It's been a minute.
Yeah. We've also had, can we do cats of FinOps? I'm wondering if I still have on here the cat picture of, no, I must have taken it down. I had a picture of my cat. Oh, what am I doing? That I used to have on here, but maybe not the time. I'll show you guys who watches the episodes as well. I'll see if I can find that. Anyways, so let's get into, I haven't even said the title for today. So welcome to the Keys to AWS Optimization, the show where we share stories, concept solutions to help unlock your spend at AWS. God, I can't have an episode without saying that. God, that would be treason. And before we dive into your direct story, we are both going to be at FinOps X next week. That's come around too quickly. But do you want to tell everybody what you're chatting a bit about and when your session is, so we can make sure everybody signs up to come along?
So first of all, thank you so much for the shout out. And yes, we're going to be at FinOps X next week. My session and Ziva's session, my employee, with going to be on Friday, I think, about taking FinOps to the next level, or what comes after optimization. And I think it's going to be a very cool lecture on our journey, again, what we managed to achieve and where we are today, where we're looking forward. And I think it's going to be really cool.
Amazing. And what day is it on?
I think Friday. I need to look at the agenda. I still building my own schedule, so you put me on the spot now.
You're like,
I think it's definitely Friday.
Okay. Just have a look for Wix. That'll be the goal. But yeah, and also we're doing 2 AWS sessions apart from the keynotes. I'm going to be doing one on governance, which you're going to want to join in for some technical chat on the first day, and then the second day we're going to be having lots of announcements at FinOps X that Rick, who has been on the show quite a few times, is going to chat a little bit about. Right. So let's get into your kind of journey into FinOps starting from 2015. When you joined Wix, like what was the kind of challenge, the landscape when you first started?
So I think it's the common challenge of every company starting FinOps. Sorry,
2017. I said 2015. I was making it even longer. Sorry.
So I think it's the same challenge that most companies starting in their FinOps journey. So creating the cost observability and making sure that they know what we're spending on and why. And the why actually came later, because first of all, we didn't have any clue on what we were looking at and what is important. So we kind of just digested everything into one big data store. And we kind of, dissected the information to see what is interesting to us. And at the beginning, it was just cost. So we looked at the dashboards and we built these beautiful dashboards for each team that migrated into the cloud. But the problem is we couldn't do anything after that, because we asked them, okay, look how much you cost. And they're like, okay. And there was nothing more to be done. And there was no action items that was a derivative of those dashboards. So the conversation was a bit like stale, because it said this is expensive, and they always complained, expensive compared to what? And it was kind of So it was kind of a conversation between two people that can't hear each other, because they didn't understand the value of being more affordable. At the time, we actually used the cost and financial language. We can talk about it later. But we couldn't, bring them to take action at the time, because the conversation revolved around cost and finance, and they didn't find a connection to them or how they are related to this subject. It was very challenging.
Yeah. So what do you think, when thinking back, was there any kind of key moment or action that you saw really flipped the mindset or get the business involved that you did?
There was this one moment when me and a friend, a worker at Wix, we sat in balcony and we talked about how to drive this change, this cultural change. And he's an engineer, and he told me, and my background is engineering as well, but I did the switch to FinOps, and now I'm talking money. And he said, no, just keep being an engineer, and you wouldn't write wasteful code, right? So why would you run in a wasteful environment? And I think that was my aha moment, that I should stop probably talking about cost, because no one cares about it. But maybe if I'll change the terminology to you're not wasteful, or you're wasteful, not costing money, but you're wasting money, or you're not running efficiently, then this is a different conversation, because efficiency is a KPI that we can actually try and measure in an engineer, and they care about it. They care about this engineering R&D principle, being efficient. So it completely changed the conversation at Wix.
Yeah, totally. The saying to someone that that's a really good way of putting it. You wouldn't write code inefficiently, I think, is a really clever kind of, if anybody's listening and they're trying to have conversations with their developers, like saying that in a kind of changing the light, I think is a great kind of quote to take from this. Maybe you can get that on a t-shirt. T-shirt submission form. I love that kind of thing. And so when you started to have those conversations with the developers, was there any kind of central thing you did to get buy-in from the business or from teams that you did?
So at the beginning, not at all. So no executive buy-in, and we had to build this practice ground up. And one of I think the key factors in how we advanced so quickly was not to create this centralized solution at Wix, but to build it from the engineering teams, and the engagement and the trust that we've managed to build during the time, during the years, really grew. And it's something that is, for me, was very important, because when you talk to an engineer eye level, instead of telling him, listen, this is what the CFO wants, it's a completely different conversation, because they see their deliverables from the action items that we produced. And I think it's amazing to see their reaction when something works. It's like a writing method, and it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. So I did something, I can see the correlation in the dashboard that I have now, and it's something conceivable, something that can be processed and then move forward to management as a success story. And I think it's a really cool concept for engineers to work directly with their FinOps peers in order to beat those champions that we really want them to be.
Yeah, inspiring them to do these things. And like you said, like take ownership, and it's something they can measure. All these small like caveats and things that we've spoken about on the show before, but seeing it actually in action is always impressive. All right, let's do a quick go for it. Finish. No,
I just want to say that it sounds good on paper, but we had many failures during the years to implement this. And I think that it was a trial and error kind of thing, that some things worked and many things didn't. And for example, we tried to implement this whole side-by-side process for FinOps. So they had so when we're talking within engineering, the first thing we tried to implement was, this is how FinOps is being implemented due to your sprints and during your roadmap, and this is what we want you to achieve. And they had to manage it in a different tool, and we created this amazing process for us, but for them it was like, no, I don't want this overhead. And we completely failed about it. And I think that we realized that everyone's talking about the common language and speaking the same language, and it's not just the language. We realized it's also the tools. We want to integrate with the engineering pipeline. So instead of doing a complete separate workload or pipeline for FinOps, we actually integrated with their engineering tools. So from GitHub to Jira to Slack to internal tools that they're working with day to day, in order for them to be engaged with those activities.
That is a great piece of advice. I everyone knows I make shorts out of these. And also, if you don't, follow us on the socials. We have all three: TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, X, whatever it is. What do we call it these days? But I was just, as you were saying that, I was like, I love that small piece of advice. The people really underestimate how much impact that will affect people. Having an email somewhere else on a different system. Like, think about that in your own world. Imagine if you had to go do something somewhere else. You're like, oh, it's such a nightmare. It's an additional process. That's how your developers feel about all the different tools, whether that's homegrown, native, like things they've paid for, that they have to go to look at all the data, try and align to one is going to make their lives so much easier. Right, let's do let's get the audience chat again. Let's do a quick quiz. My question to everybody: has anyone made a Wix website? That's my question, because I have. 1 for yes, 2 for no. Just want to see how many fans you got of Wix out there.
Another one for me.
Another one for you. I can add another one on your behalf. There you go.
Thank you.
I can't add a identical message. That's great. There you go. Oh, it's a mixed bag. If you haven't, go check out Wix. It's a really helpful way. I just realized I'm trying to sell Wix for you. But it's just interesting to see. A lot of people have made it. Maybe, do you want to just give a brief sentence on what Wix is, if we didn't cover that already?
So Wix is a website platform building company. We give the opportunity for individuals, small businesses, medium and enterprises to build their online presence. And we're serving more than 263 million users around the world, more than 190 countries. And architecture is quite large. I don't know how much do you want me to?
No, but I think that's good, because I'm at fault with doing this all the time, which is when I go hard in with the FinOps, and then I sometimes forget about the businesses behind or like in front, around, whatever. And so sometimes I do like to make sure that everyone knows kind of what these businesses do, because when you think about Wix, you think about spinning up your own website. Remember that there are servers behind there, and we want to make sure that they're optimized so that people pay for it are going to make the most money. And there's already some love in the chat for Wix anyway. Love Wix, so easy. Love how easy it is to use. Some fans already, which is great.
One cool
Hey guys,
item,
okay. Yeah, go
just
for
one
it.
cool item about
Yeah.
Wix, the numbers. So Wix is around a bit more than 5,000 people in the company.
Yeah.
Half of them are R&D, so half of them are engineers. It's a very engineering-centric company. Our CEO can code, so it's pretty cool. And it also creates this complexity when everyone is driving changes on our infrastructure and production. So
Yeah. So I mean, that's amazing that you have that many engineering teams, which kind of brings us on to the next thing. So we're talking about being able to measure efficiency. You mentioned is a really good way of describing it rather than maybe waste. So when you started out trying to measure and track this, after a while, you said you kind of started a little bit and then kind of grew. Who were you kind of talking to understand efficiency from a developer point of view?
Okay, so we haven't talked with many people because we've built it from the engineering team. So we haven't discussed it with like the product we actually sat with the farthest up below the chain, the food chain, like the one that is doing the Terraform apply. And we asked them, when you change infrastructure or when you're doing something in the production environment, what is the key factor for you to measure? Or what do you define as success? How do you define your objectives and how can we measure it? And I think we talked about a common language, and we kind of identified at Wix when we created our common language that most of the time when you, and it's a true story, most of the time when you ask engineer why he's doing what he's doing, he will explain to you what he is implementing does. So for example, I'm doing a caching solution. Why do you do a caching solution? To cache things. and we realized that that's a true story. Why are you doing this? Because this does that. And why do you use this product? Because this product is doing 1, 2, 3. And no one told us like what will be the business impact on that, or how do we measure this success of this agenda, or what KPIs we need to measure. And this is what we try to change, because we wanted to change the conversation from what we're doing things to why we're doing things, and how can we correlate it back to the business. And that was this underlying understanding for us that everything, from the smallest EBS to the largest instance, and the data transfers and everything that we're running in the production, everything serves our business in a way. If we can't define how, then for us it's waste. Right? Because if we're running something that we can't pinpoint what it's doing for our business and how to measure it, it's waste for us. So this kind of changed the way we looked at production.
Yeah, that's just such a strong a decision around it. Like it has to have business value. Like even Mum mentioned, having business value is a crucial element to that. So how did you actually decide what to track, and what did you track? What were the kind of key things you numerically maybe focused on?
Perfect. So as I said, we moved from cost to waste. So we kind of created these waste metrics on top of monitoring tools. So for example, if I'm running an instance, like the C5 9X large, it costs $1.53 in North Virginia per hour, public pricing. And
I love how you know that on the top of your head. It's such a FinOps thing. I feel like people in the chat probably agree. I know like so many random, or especially when I was a customer, it's also like columns of the cur, like the full name of how to type it out. Anyway, so I continue.
I can completely correlate that. I invested in the core like hours and hours, so I'm very familiar with it. By the way, still one of the best cost reports ever made on everywhere, and I've used most of them. So kudos to you.
Thank you. I'll feed that back to Zach.
So we looked at this, for example, this instance, and we monitored the CPU utilization metric from CloudWatch. And if it shows like the median or the average for like 30% utilization, so it presented a 70% waste. And if you create that 70% out of the 153, then you can actually, aggregate based on user-defined tags the most wasteful workloads for different teams. And then you have a question? Or?
No. I'm thinking in my head Of how to yeah, keep going. Yeah.
So when we unified this metric, like this waste metric, we can do everything. For example, it can be waste on EC2 instances. It can be waste and DynamoDB provision versus consume DIOPS. It can be waste versus, I don't know, everything that is monitoring. And for example, RDS, we took the memory from the core and the freeable memory from the CloudWatch, and we kind of substitute, what's the word? Reduce them.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. And it was like this metric of how much we can free and how much we can actually waste. Are we wasting on RDS clusters that we have? So we kind of built this unified view of how we look at the environment and the way that we want to approach agendas, because we're no longer looking at the most costly agendas, like things that cost us the most, or the top 10 cost in weeks. But we actually looked at the top 10 wasters, and it kind of helped us, push agendas forward, because there was an immediate feedback on how much it can save and what will be the outcome.
That's so clever. When you were talking at one point, I was like trying to imagine all the math. I don't know if you've seen that meme of the woman and all the calculations. Like that's how I looked, trying to work out. But that's really. I don't think I've had. I mean, I haven't spoken to a customer who's done that before. So it's really clever in this, like flipping the narrative. And I think we've done on here a few episodes ago. We talked about waste with Yuri, and we often think of it as very black and white, very much like things that are unused or over provision, which is correct in what you're saying as well. But you've just taken it that step further of saying like, okay, if you have that instance, you're only using a certain percent. How do we multiply that out? And you found that. That's so cool. So if someone was trying to replicate this, what would be the first step for them to kind of get the data? What would be like tips to kind of get started in doing this?
Well, it took me I think 30 minutes to integrate with CloudWatch metrics for every instance in our account, in our production. It's like I think 50 lines of code all in total. And so it's not a difficult task to do. You just have to understand what to look for and how to iterate between the different instances. But again, it's a mindset, because you shouldn't do it only on one workload. Otherwise, you won't have any benchmarking to understand if this is the most important thing you have to take care of. You have to do it like across the board. We had this session with Amazon in AWS Summit in Tel Aviv, 2019. And we talked about operations and how we approach it. So we had like 3 steps. And the first step is to identify the service and how we utilize it. The second step would be to understand what kind of monitoring we have on top of it. And then the third step would be to create a waste metrics on top of utilization metrics and the service, the way that we use it. And this kind of flow helped us identify multiple vectors that we can actually create this unified view of how to approach cost optimization. But this is not the most important things that we do, because the concept of the new waste model is for us what we want to achieve. And I know everyone's talking about reducing waste. And I know everyone's talking about reducing their footprint. But I think no one's talking enough about the utilized waste, because everyone knows how to pinpoint like this instance is idle, this disk is not attached to anything, and I think it's simple enough to understand where's your waste coming from. But it's much harder to understand utilized waste. So everything in the monitoring that is fully used, but it's still a waste from the business perspective. And I think this is what we
are. Michael's already just said, love the term utilized waste. So could you give us an example of what would be an element of utilized waste?
So this is kind of a preview to what I'm going to talk about at FinOpsX, but it's
just
an example. I have multiple examples, but the best example in my world of utilized waste is caching. So every time, let's simplify a cache solution and say that, for example, first of all, cache will always be fully utilized. It always store objects based on their TTLs, and it will always change the versions, and eventually it will always be utilized. And the impact of caching is improved performance, so time to first byte or whatever metric that you're monitoring. But here's the thing: when you ask someone, show me what the impact of caching is, it will see an improvement in performance. and fully utilized workload. And it's a very expensive one because it's caching.
Yeah.
But I think the question should change. Instead of what its process is doing and what the outcome of it is, how can we make this process more efficient and what we should look at. And for example, in caching, it's very straightforward, although I don't think anyone's talking about it, but the heat ratio. So what would be the KPI of measuring, for example, 30% heat ratio on a caching solution? And for us, if again we apply this waste model on this specific workload, it will be 70% waste, right?
Yeah.
Because we're only so there might be objects that are uncacheable. There might be objects that we need to change the domain. We have to re-architecture the way that we use cache. That means smaller instances. And you can't reach those optimization only based on monitoring. You have to understand the business. You have to understand what to measure from the engineering side. So the question won't be what you're running and how it impacts your business anymore. It will be what you're running and how can we make sure it's running effectively and doing what it's supposed to do. And I think what to measure, it's the most interesting question, right? Because everyone's struggling with understanding how do we measure a workload success. And this is something
Yeah.
that is still complex to us as well.
Yeah, that that I haven't even thought about that before. You can tell. I feel like people who watch the show regularly can tell when I don't know enough about the subject and I'm just listening, because I often think I'm like, I should write this down, and I'm like, wait, it's recorded. You could, but that's really interesting. But I love this idea that, and it kind of relates back to when we talked at the start about what does Wix do earlier, because you do have to look at the business and what it is actually being used for. And you're right. I think a lot of, if you think about the FinOps Foundation crawl, walk, run, crawl these days is probably a lot more than crawl was like in 2020. Like, we've grown so much in the availability to do very simple stuff like identifying basic waste, like unattached resources and stuff like that. It's very easy. But as soon as you start to get into that kind of crawl and run stage, like you said, looking at the architecture and asking questions about what it is. And I find I don't get to do that often, because obviously I'm coming in from a customer point of view of like normally with the FinOps person. And so it's really exciting to hear when you're in the business and you can go to these teams and be that, not critical, but I think asking that question of why is really important. And there's one thing we spoke about, we chatted before, was we talked about you doing reviews of processes and things like post-mortems when
Yeah,
things are. Do you want to talk like broadly about that kind of stuff?
of course. Super interesting for me as well. Because this is something that is actually related to what we talked about earlier, that we need to integrate with the engineering pipeline. And one of the struggles we had at the time was to engage with engineers to take action. But we tried a positive way, like this is, if you do this, then amazing, you'll do that. And we found out that it's only happening when engineers doing a good job. But what happens when engineers like forget an S3 endpoint, for example, or do something
Yeah.
very, very silly in the production? Then we decided we didn't have any tools as FinOps, right,
Right.
to engage with them on failures and to create this, not to with a stick hit him in the hand, but just to create this educational process that how to avoid it next time, and
Yeah.
to engage with the team to understand what was the failure and how to improve next time. And we realized, oh wait, we're engineers, so we have this process, it's called post-mortem. And we actually implemented the same production incident pipeline into a financial incident pipeline. Same process, same people
Okay.
engaged, same people from operations that moving the process forward. And we did postmortems for impactful incidents. And we didn't come and say, very bad, don't do it again. We actually came and said, tell us about your process. Like, what was the decision-making process? How can we engage with you more? What kind of information was missing so we can, fill in the blanks? Or if there's any monitoring that you're missing, let's create it together. And besides the fact that no one wants to be in a postmortem, right? It's a terrible process. It created this amazing educational loop when teammates actually said, oh, we had a postmortem last month about this project. Let's make sure that we're doing things correctly. And the feedback loop was amazing. And everyone wanted to be in a success story newsletter for management. No one wants to be in postmortems.
Yeah. And could you just in like a sentence explain what postmortems are if people don't know what they
Yes,
what that really means?
of course. So post-mortem, it's, I think, from Latin, the post-autopsy, after the death of the
Yeah, wait,
production.
don't worry. No one's getting cut open when they're doing these. The
Yes,
developers are like, oh no, what happened in the brain?
it's a philosophical term of engaging with something that didn't work as it should have. So, for example, if there is a process and a teammate is doing something that it shouldn't supposed to do, there is a process of putting everyone in the same room together, understanding what was the initiator of the problem. We discuss about how to create guardrails and how to create visibility on such occasions if we didn't have one or if we caught it later. We talk about how to improve the process of decision making on this specific subject. And then if the impact is more than something, if it's a financial incident, then we actually involve additional management to make sure that the team is actually creating better policies for the team, better, let's say, if they did something they weren't supposed to do, then checking their security policies and their access level and stuff like that. So I hope it was.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. And so from the postmortems, I love the fact it's two ways, right? So you are going to the team and asking them, like you said, kind of, how can we make this better? It's not wagging the finger kind of thing. And so you're educating them, but you're also taking things away to go and implement that you can do better, or you can set up, like you said, governance. Does anything come to mind of something that came up in a postmortem that either you think really saved the business a problem for later, or was something that you hadn't thought of? Like any good anecdotes that you'd like to share on that?
I don't have much, not under NDAs.
Oh, fair. Feel
um,
free to avoid that.
High level,
Yeah.
we did create some organizational policies on
Okay.
access level, and we did
Okay.
create code linters to check our code for things in Terraform that weren't defined properly. I can't go.
No,
Yeah,
that's more than enough. I mean, and also as a prop for my FinOps session, we'll be covering some high level policy SEP stuff. So come along. But no, having the thing that you've just hit on, which I think is what's more important than the nitty gritty of what you actually did, is you said it in a way that meant it happened at the high level and it prevented stuff from happening, right? So you're setting rules in place to prevent something happening again, but also you're doing it in an automated way with things like linting. You're preventing stuff from sneaking through the cracks that might have been there before. So automation. What's the answer?
amazing.
Probably automation. I think you also mentioned that you integrated with things like Jira as well, with like ticketing systems that developers are working with. Any other things you want to share on that?
It's mostly how they plan their sprint. So we want to integrate with their tasks in the same way that they plan the sprint in order to be part of their sprint. Otherwise, the problem was that we try to manage those tasks outside their sprint, outside their tools that they're using, and it always fell between the cracks. So we integrated our own tasks with their own sprint. And that way they can come and say, oh, we can't do it, or we're delaying it because you have to. We watch you.
We know. So you guys, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys sit in a CCOE, is that right?
So it's not a CCOE. It is a COE. It's a center of excellence, but it's not cloud.
I was like, what's the other C for? So center of excellence. So how do you find sitting in that kind of an organization helps you with your FinOps work?
Okay, so first of all, a bit of background, so I can share a bit of what we're doing at Wix. I think a year and a half ago, this is a bonus kind of a thing, but I have a twin brother. He looks exactly like me, and he also works at Wix. So
no.
Yes.
That must be so confusing. Like if you're like in the real world as adults, like you don't really see twins together that often, apart from like where they hang out, I guess. But at work, doing what job? If someone's just said, "Wow," I'm like breaking. That's amazing. Yes, I agree. Okay, I must know. How does that work?
Story. Funny story. 3 years ago, Wix wanted to recruit an ITAM, IT asset management, and I pitched another job And I said, like, ITAM is just FinOps for IT. So maybe, just maybe, let's bring someone more innovative, like someone from the entrepreneur or something that is building own practices and create something from scratch, because I believe that as we created FinOps from nothing, then this process might be beneficial for Wix. And I brought my brother. I know I can't explain it, but it actually worked. And everything that I'm not in charge of at Wix, he's in charge of. So everything related to IT, asset management, strategic operations, everything related to how we work with vendors, how we run organization more efficiently. This is his domain, and I'm in charge of FinOps in the production. And so everything related to production. Together, we kind of in charge of everything. So
a power trip of this family running Wix.
The twins of Wix. And we sat together a year and a half ago, and we kind of decided that we're kind of doing the same thing. We're doing the same best practices, and we created this same language when we talk with finance, when we talk with engineers. It doesn't matter if it's a SaaS kind of platform or if it's cloud. And we decided that we want to build something new. And we decided that to manage everything under our domain in one single center of excellence. And we called it VICO, which is the Value and Impact Center of Excellence. And it's not cloud because not just cloud. Right. And VICO is actually has been running for the last 1 year and a half, amazing results. And the base idea of VICO is how to create this education for operations manager, for engineers, for procurement. And we kind of created this template for people to use when they approach, for example, a new procurement or a new model or financial model with vendors, same with cloud, and how they engage with engineers that asking them. And we really identified like this new language. And we define terms like procurement-led procurement, where procurement is trying to bring the worst, best deal. And it's something that engineers couldn't, quantify properly. And we're doing negotiations with someone, bringing the best price for something that we don't really need or quantified properly. And this is VICO. So it's kind of this organization inside of an organization, creating this educational framework and building tools in order to optimize and run this organization more efficiently.
Wow. I love how I love the fact that you're a twin and then you're
you're still in that. Okay, yeah.
No, I don't. But yes, the rest of it is great. Obviously, I just love that that's happened at the same episode I brought my mum in. I think it's a really funny thing. The family's getting involved. And Travis said, "Don't give it to just the cloud. He's good at everything."
I really want my brother to be here so he can just wave and surprise everyone, but he couldn't make it.
Just come in the background and just confuse me, oh, there's two. While we're talking about CCOE, COEs, I would be curious to know, do you have customers, people out there, are you part of a CCOE? I'm obviously not part of a CCOE, but one for yes, two for no. Be interested to know, because it's always one of those questions, where do FinOps teams sit in the business? And I often like the idea that they're sitting in a central place together, because that means they connect to security and other elements of the business, so that it's cohesive, which I think is a lot easier.
I think there's a huge benefit of a centralized organization that promotes FinOps best practices. And this is something that I'm very aligned with the industry today, because I think 4 years ago, it was a one-man operation at Wix, and it was very hard for me to engage with everyone. Again, we're talking about thousands of engineers, dozens of groups. And now Ziva is helping me. She joined Wix, I think, 3 years ago. But again, 2 people, it was so little. And we kind of brought my brother together and champions from different teams, and we kind of try to make sure that everyone's aligned with our vision and how to run efficiently. And it was a huge success. We really loved it.
Yeah. Just great stories. All right, we are coming up on close to the time, so I do want to get on to how you guys saved amazing amounts of optimization and money in terms of actual optimizations you did. I don't want to spend 5 minutes just kind of running through a couple of them, but I know we spoke about DynamoDB was a big one you guys optimized. Is that right?
Yeah. Okay, so this is a funny story, because this is something that we want to talk about as FinOps, that when you talk to engineers, they might give you the wrong data. And you have to trust data and not engineers. And when I talked with the people managing DynamoDB, they said, like, yeah, we're running the most efficient way. We're running on provisioned IOPS, and it's more affordable than on demand. And I was like, yeah, okay, sounds amazing. And I kind of let it go. And for months, I saw the invoice like growing and growing, and more business and more business. And then it was so impactful. Then I said, okay, I gotta step into this kind of event. And I looked at provisioned IOPS, and I actually, as I said, find the service, find the monitoring tools, and integrate everything together to a waste metric. And we did the dashboard that shows the complete waste per table, per index, for each of the tables that were provisioned in that account, based on the consumed write, consumed read, and provisioned write and provisioned read metrics from CloudWatch. And we show them like half of their capacities over provisioned, and at their peak, they didn't reach those provisioned IOPS.
Oh, wow.
And that was a collaboration between AWS and Wix. We had like a full day with engineers from AWS and architects coming to Wix. And we actually did this amazing centralized day to optimize this workload. And we're talking 6 figures reduced by half. And it was a huge success. And and this was the first optimization that taught us not to trust engineers, but to trust data. Because everyone will tell you, yeah, I did my research and I'm running effectively and efficiently, but you have to.
Yeah, I would say that. I was an engineer, but I know what I'm doing. But I love that. I feel like there's so many phrases from today's episode, like don't trust engineers, trust data. I want that on a t-shirt. Alex, get making. Alex,
my God, I have it in my presentation. I have to change it. Trademark.
No, submission date's gone. You can't be changing those decks yet.
That's true. Okay, so it was a good. We had, by the way, just to emphasize, and I think this is very important for the people listening at the moment. The biggest reductions that we had, the biggest savings that we had, and the biggest optimization that we managed to do, executive buy-in. I mean, as I said, we've built this practice ground up, and goodwill of engineers can get you so far. But once we got that, elusive and sweet executive buy-in, it changed the picture, because everyone was focused on reducing the footprint. And it was from, as I said, DynamoDB provisioned versus consumed. It was reducing our footprint, right-sizing EC2 instances. But it was also from the engineering side, reducing the amount of dynamic memory our libraries consume in our pods, and right-sizing. It was an amazing orchestra of optimization, and everyone talked the same language, and everyone pushed forward to this optimization and this agenda, and the results kind of shown in our public reports.
And go and I threw that up on the screen. Make sure you go and check out the amazing blog that was written. All right, before we bring on our secret Richard, what's next? Like, what are you guys focusing on next?
So this is a good question, because everyone's talking about AI, but I don't.
I knew you were going to say
it. Yeah, I don't want to just throw it away as an item. But there is something really cool that I want to do. There is this cloud financial framework, and you can see all the optimization and best practices running on different tools in AWS, but it doesn't connect to your workload. And that's something that I really want to implement, like create this model of, this is the best practice running RDS. This is my RDS activity. Connect between the two. Compare. Tell me if I'm optimized. Yeah, combine. And this is a project that I've started working on, and I'm filled with excitement, because I think it will bring huge value. Because now you can ask, I think Amazon Q did it for forecasting and cloud cost explorer kind of metrics, right? It's GA. Right. So you can ask Amazon Q, like, what is my top services cost and stuff. And this is what I want to do for CFF. So this is my RDS workload. How can I optimize it best on your best practices? And then get a response of I see
well,
this.
we have to.
This is
Yeah, you'll have to come back on and show it to us when you have made it.
it will take time, but yeah, I'm
Yeah.
working on it.
Good.
But
That's
it's
really exciting. That
exciting
sounds really
because,
cool.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
I get to
fun,
put
right? When
my
you get
hands
to
in it
play.
because I used to code a lot. I've built my
Yeah.
own internal tool, so we're not using third-party vendor for Wix. For cost optimization, we're actually I've built my own tool. So I love like code and make sure that everything is like connected and everything. So
Yeah,
excited
I'm
about
really, and in my head, I'm like imagining like overlaying very Iron Man when he's like building out the Iron Man suit, like overlaying a good RDS version and a bad RDS version. It's like the virtual stuff. Anyways, right, let's bring on Secret Richard. So as a reminder, we have Richard in the wings who is listening to our chat, and we'll bring on a summary. And I don't know what he's written, and so I'm going to get to read that firsthand, which is always quite entertaining to do. And this is a nice sort of summary of their episodes. So if you're ever wondering what the summary of an episode is that's happened in the past, go feel free and check it out. Here we go as it rolls up. There's always the fun part is waiting. Oh, coming up and down. It's unsure. He might make a change. Might be a spelling error. Luckily, if I was writing it, we know it'd be full of spelling errors. But we'll give him a second. Just as a reminder, as always, feel free to email us if you have any other questions, comments. If you have an idea for a Twitch show yourself, then feel free to drop us an email, customization@amazon.com, before we finish out. All right, let's see if this loads. I feel like I need a drum roll. It must be really good. That's why. Okay. The people demand more Sue. There had to be one about mum at the start. Are you down bad for cost? Talk about efficiency instead. Yeah, if you didn't notice, I'm wearing a down bad shirt, crying at the gym. Obviously, if I'm going to see Taylor Swift, I'm still going to get the gym involved. That's where that comes from. Post-mortems are an effective mechanism. Yeah, encourage everybody. Next time you have something go awry in your counts, do a post-mortem. Even if you don't even know what that is, like, do it, have some research, let us know you get on. And executive buying is key. Last sort of throwaway in there. We all know there's a really good blog. I'll put it in the show notes about executive buying that Amazon did that I can recommend. Amazing. Well, again, Dvir, thank you so much for joining us today. Always a pleasure. And I'm excited to see you in person next week. It's going to be fun at FinOps San Diego. Please, if you are coming, come say hi, come to the Amazon booth. We have swag we're giving out. We've got prizes we're giving out. And if you are subscribed to the YouTube channel, you'll be able to enter yourself in a prize draw. Thanks again to everyone watching. And we will be back next week. Savannah will be taking over while I'm at FinOps. So we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Thank you so much.